Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome, and thanks for being here. So today is a disappointing mail day. You know, we all post our great mail days, and for me, it's a disappointing mail day, but it was one that I was expecting. Uh, and you know what? Disappointing doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. Um, but I only have myself and my own bad decisions to blame for this mail day. If you've been a listener since season one, you'll remember the 2000 Tom Brady Bowman Chrome. Yes, it's back on the podcast like a reoccurring guest, but now not in a good way. If you're new here, here's a little recap to get you caught up. So I acquired the this 2000 Bowman Chrome Brady rookie card BGS 9 last year. It was in July. It was just before National. Um, the subgrades on it were 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, 8.5, 8.5 being the surface. It was an all trade deal. I did a deal. I remember it like yesterday. I did a deal at the last show in New Jersey, and it was all trade. I traded all cards up for this card, and the current comp at the time was about $3,200. So I was excited. I put it to the universe. I wanted this card. I was excited that this card came to me at that show, and I was able to make a trade before the show started, and absolutely loved that card. And that card was talked about on season one on a number of episodes because I was always, going to shows, talking about recaps from shows, and I received many offers on the card. Some of them were trades, some of them were cash. There's like all different kinds of things happen with this card. Um, for whatever reason, and usually mostly because everybody wanted the card for under comps, I never sold the card. There was one show that I was offered $2,800 for, and the comps at the time were 3,400, and I didn't take it. And I had, a number of listeners said, "Man, you should have, jumped on that because they felt that that price of that card was going to go down." And you know what? They were right. They were right because that card did drop in value. It did drop to under $2,500. Um, and I would continue to put it in my case at shows. I'd put it up there for 3K, and I'd just see what would happen. And most of the times I went to the shows, I'd walk around, and other people had the similar card, and they had it over 3K. People had it at 32, 34, 35. So I felt I was fairly priced, but the card never sold. So most of the shows I had done throughout the summer after National last year, throughout the summer and all the way through the fall. Before the show, you always get other dealers. They come by and they're looking, and a lot of people would see this card and they would pull the card out and they would look at it and they would look at the subgrades on it. And it's people I trust. People that I trusted their opinions. And said, "Man, this card looks really clean. You should crack it, clean it." Because the 8.5 was surface. So what's the, and you hear this all the time. You hear all the time. I mean, I can't go to a show without hearing, "Oh, I would crack that. I do this, do that." But when, they have the subgrades on it, and the subgrade for surface was an 8.5, immediately they say, "Well, there was probably a fingerprint on it. There's something on there that, maybe could be wiped off and improved up to, a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 9, or it could even gem, right? I've heard that before too. Unlikely to gem. I understand that's unlikely to gem. But people were really confident that it could definitely go up, a half a grade, and that half a grade really would bring the value of that card up. And the card wasn't selling anyways, right? So fast forward to April of this year, I still had the card. and someone I know had sent a card to, somebody that I've met, through the hobby, and said, "Hey, they did a great job for me. They cleaned up the card, the grade. I got an improved grade on it." And I noticed this person posting, um, a lot of before and afters, a bunch of, weekly before and afters, how these cars went from BGS 8 or 8.5 to PSA 10 or BGS 9.5s. They're always, being improved in the grades. Some, I still had everybody that I knew locally saying, "Man, you should get this stuff done. You should crack it, clean it, have it regraded." So I reached out to this person online and I said, "Hey, look, I've got this card. Here's the story. Um, I don't mind sending it to you. I know all these other people have sent you stuff. They've been happy with you. I would send you this card if you could look at it before you crack it and just tell me, do you think that this card could improve? It could the grade could improve on it." Um, no problem, no problem. And if you're that I follow him and I know he says like we have so many of these things, so many of these cards we're cleaning up and they're just coming back with better grades. So I was excited. I'm getting a little excited to get this done and hoping that, I can improve the grade. Um and especially since it was a surface, was the low grade, was the 8.5, and I think that has always been the key on this card, that, the centering, the corners, the edges, those are, like, always, if there's something wrong with those, it's hard to improve that. You can't improve centering. It's hard to improve edges and corners, right? So if it's just the surface, it's usually something, if it's the card's cleaned up, it can, get bumped up a half a grade, right? So I shipped the card off. About a week or so later, he reached out to me and said, "Yeah," he said, "I really think we could get this grade bumped up, and this is what it would cost." So I said, "Okay, I'll give you the green light. Go ahead, let's make it happen." 2 weeks went by, and I didn't hear anything. And of course, it's an expensive card, and this is on my mind. I'm, a little excited, a little worried. Um, So I reached out and I said, "Hey, just checking in. What's going on with the card? Where are we at with it?" Um, and he responded back, "I sent it to my prepper. I'm waiting to hear back." And I said, "Oh, I was unaware there were other people involved. I thought this was just him." And he said, "No, I sent somebody preps these cards for me. I send them to them." I said, "Okay, I'll wait to hear back. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to get worried." So 2 weeks go by. Then I get a picture of the card, and it's raw. It's been cracked out of the case, and now I'm excited. Okay, great. What's the next step? Where do we go? BGS, PSA? What's the best grade you think we'll get? And he responds, "Not sure. The card looks weak." Wait, what? 2 weeks ago, it was a great candidate to be, go up a half a grade. I said, "Is the surface that bad?" He said, "No, the centering is terrible." Wait, wait, hold on a minute. I'm confused. Like, this card was a 9.5 centering when I sent it to you. How did all this on the centering become terrible? And I even sent them a picture of the original card saying, "Are we talking about the same card?" Um, I didn't hear from him for a week, which is getting me nervous now. I'm like, now what is going on? How come there's a lack of communication? Then he responds a week later, let's send this to BGS. Let's see what happens. I'm sure it's going to come back a BGS 9." And I at this point, I'm like, I don't know if he's telling me this or he's just trying to make me feel good. Uh, you know, not to start freaking out like I'm about to start freaking out. Um, so I said, "Okay, if you're thinking it's going to come back a 9, I'm thinking to myself, it was a 9. If it comes back a 9, it's in a new slab. I've lost, a little bit of money, but I can deal with that. No big deal. 6 weeks later, the card is back, and now it's a BGS 8.5. It's gone down a half a grade. Hasn't improved. It's gotten worse. So the new subgrades are 8.5 for centering. So now the centering is dropped from 9.5 to 8.5. The edges, which was a 9.5, is now an 8, and the surface remained at an 8.5, and the corners remained at a 9.5. At this point, and I'm sure as I'm telling you this story, you're thinking the same thing I'm about to say is this even the same card? And anyone would wonder that. Like, uh, it's the centering, right? We're talking centering. There's so many other things in the card could go wrong, but the centering is the centering, right? And I know it's possible. Grading standards have changed over the years, and what was once a 9.5 is now an 8 or an 8.5, because this card was graded back in the early 2000s. So that was something I was able to look up. But at the end of the day, right? Now the value of this card is down $1,000, between a 9 and an 8.5, and the money put into doing all this. Um, I shook my head. I mean, I had no one to blame but myself. Um, I trusted others with my card that I probably shouldn't have. But here's the interesting thing. I did send other cards along with this Brady, and he was absolutely spot on all the other cards. One, either they were raw or ones that were going to be cracked. He said exactly, "Oh, this will get that. This will get that. This," and everything came back exactly what he said, except for the most expensive card and the whole reason I was sending. I would have never even sent those other cards. I just thought, "Hey, I'm sending this, and I had these other cards. I might as well send them too." Right? But it was the one card that I cared about the most about getting the better grade that the whole thing fell apart. Um, and this is a lesson learned for me, and it was a little more expensive. That lesson to be learned was a little more expensive than most, and it kind of hurt me a little too because that card came with a story and had a story and was talked about many times on the podcast. And it was one of those things that, yeah, I could have sold it and not had to worry about losing a few $100s and stuff like that on the card. But I just felt it was such a great card, and I didn't mind having it in my case because it was a card. It was like case, like eye candy for my case because people would see that card and they would always ask about it. So it's one of those things that if I really like the card and I don't want to take a loss on it, why not hold it until the market at one point rebounds, right? And then I could sell it then or just keep it myself because I like the card. Um, if and when I do sell this one, if it's at comps or above comps, because it'll never be below comps at this point, at least it'll have a story, right? At least it'll come with a story. So I talk about this here. I'm obviously I am not going to name the person that I use to do this stuff, because when that card left me, I have no idea what's going on with that card, and I certainly can't make any accusations whatsoever. And like I said, I mean, it could be new grading standards that, what was once a 9.5, now cards are, that 9.5 is better. And now that's in, an 8 or an 8.5 or whatever. It doesn't matter because it's over with now. It's done. I have the card back in my hand. It's in a BGS 8.5 slab. And it's a lesson learned, and for me, um, it's okay. It's okay because it's happened and I've learned and I talk about, learning from this. But, for other people out there that are thinking about doing that, maybe you've learned something from my lesson. Maybe we're okay leaving it as a 9, right? And not taking chances. Um, of sending it off or recracking or sending it out if it's something that if it's a card that's important to you or a pretty valuable card, unless you are that confident yourself. I would have never done any of that myself, so I relied on somebody else doing it, and I feel I made a mistake. um Not so much with the person. Maybe it was the person, maybe it wasn't, but, I probably should have just left well enough alone and, you know, kept the card or sold the card the way it was and not start messing around with the card. So, that's my little story. Um, and hopefully, this card will have a few more stories before it ends up going anywhere, unless it stays with me. So that's it. That's all I have. Short episode. I am traveling this week. I recorded this on Monday. It's being uploaded today. And remember that Monday's episode will be a day late. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.